A huge Steelers trade is imminent as an insider has just dropped a bombshell Steelers report surrounding one wide receiver that changes everything for this team as the trade deadline inches closer and closer. To break down this brand new report, discuss what it means going forward as well as a bunch of other updates on this episode, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. Folks, a lot of new reports are starting to drop surrounding the Steelers, and we know that for weeks now, they've been active in the market for a wide receiver via trade. And we have a massive new report revealing that not only is a trade imminent, but their main target has been revealed, and that is Jakobi Meyers. Now, I had a video yesterday on Rashid Shaheed. Now, he makes a ton of sense. Still unclear at this point whether or not the Saints are going to be fully open to trading him, but we know that Jakobi Meyers is on the trade block, and ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler predicts that the Steelers will be the ones to trade for Raiders wide receiver, Jakobi Meyers. And basically, if you read the article, we'll dive into it. He says that if he had to pick one team right now, it would be the Steelers to trade for Jakobi Meyers. And I love this, obviously. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I'm a huge Jakobi Meyers fan. And let's dive into the article. The Pittsburgh Steelers reportedly traded for Kyle Duggar. That was finalized today, but the team may not be done making moves. In his latest news and notes column for ESPN, insider Jeremy Fowler wrote that he believes the Steelers will trade for Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Jakobi Meyers. Quote, several teams are believed to be in the receiver market, most notably the Steelers and possibly the Broncos and Bills. Meyers clearly wants out, and the Raiders are in a transitional phase. They just signed Tyler Lockett, which could ease the loss of Jakobi Meyers. Pittsburgh is keeping tabs on this one, but is prepared to be patient too. If I had to predict a destination right now, I'd say the Steelers. And he also goes on to say that he's curious to see what the Steelers will do ahead of the deadline, and that they're heavily involved in the wide receiver market. Folks, we're going to dive into everything surrounding Jakobi Meyers in this video. We've had videos on it in the past, but you look at some of the receivers that they have now, some of the ones they've been rumored in acquiring, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which they reportedly signed but haven't made it official yet, which some are speculating it's because they're trying to work out a trade for Jakobi Meyers, and then maybe that would work out in putting him on the active roster, Scantling that is, or maybe not needing him at all. But as Jakobi Meyers is going to cost a little bit more than a guy like Rashid Shaheed, but he's a much better route runner, and he complements DK Metcalf a lot better in my mind than Rashid Shaheed does, just because we know Rashid Shaheed is a speedster, so is DK Metcalf, among many other things for DK. But let's look at Jakobi a little bit here. So we can look at it. He would be a significant addition to the offense. Last year, he had his first 1,000-yard season with 87 receptions, but he hasn't been able to replicate that success this year. A lot of that is because of their quarterback situation, how bad their offensive scheming is. Obviously, that team in general is a bit of a disaster to the point where Jakobi Meyers requested a trade himself, but he is another big-bodied receiver on the outside at 6'2" and compare well with DK Metcalf. And I've been seeing you guys in the comments a lot as well. And let me know down below, out of everyone we've discussed here on the channel, and we'll continue to discuss as we inch closer to that November 4th trade deadline, who is the one wide receiver that you want them to trade for? Is it a guy like Jakobi Meyers? Is it a guy like, we've discussed a bunch, Rashid Shaheed, all these different ones. I think Meyers makes the most sense, at least from a fit perspective. He's not a veteran, but he's been around for a little bit, could be perfect for Aaron Rodgers, and gives them more of a true route runner as opposed to some of the other guys. However, the biggest question mark becomes whether giving up the draft capital is worth it, which I think it is. We know their wide receiver depth is a little bit back now. Calvin Austin's healthy, Roman Wilson's healthy, but neither of those guys are necessarily great, right? And we have some comments later in this video from Calvin Austin on how he's feeling about things. But you could argue that Roman Wilson, one of their most recent draft picks, could have a breakout year, all these different things. This team is trying to add now. They're trying to win now, and they're going all in basically to win. Now, whether or not that's the right call, let me know down below. But Meyers unequivocally would be a huge upgrade. If the Steelers like the price, they could certainly make a move. We've been hearing for weeks now that a team wants to acquire a wideout, and of course Meyers is one of the best on the market. People are talking about a day 2 draft pick, a day 3 draft pick. I'd be comfortable giving up, a 4th round pick for Jakobi Meyers. He is a pending free agent. And again, he requested a trade out of the Las Vegas. So it's going to be very interesting. And looking at his career stats as a whole, yes, he had his breakout year last year. Yes, he's down a little bit this year. Still not a bad year by any means. But you look at the years before, he's been one of the most consistent wide receiver 2s in the NFL. He put up back-to-back 800-plus yard seasons, with last year's being kind of the cultivation of all of the practice he's done here to put 1,000 yards up for the Raiders. And, of course, most of those were with the New England Patriots before getting shipped off to LA. He's 29 years old. I guess you could consider him a veteran. He's not young by any means, but he's one that you know what you're going to get with him. He will be an efficient route runner, and maybe this will turn, Aaron Rodgers into being willing to throw the ball around more. Not that he doesn't throw the ball a lot, but he doesn't usually specifically target one particular wide receiver. And DK Metcalf doesn't get a ton of targets compared to some of the other WR ones around the league. And we saw in last week's game, there was I think a stat or a graphic up on the broadcast that he had passed like every possible player. Everyone has one reception. No one has more than one or more than like four at the very top. So ultimately, he's getting DK Metcalf the ball, but will Jakobi Meyers be able to get a lot of targets? He's only a couple years removed from an 8-touchdown season, which is obviously pretty impressive. He has a pretty good catch percentage. He's pretty good, his yards per target, 7.7. He would be a deep threat, but he would also be just a true route runner to open up the field for what DK Metcalf does best, which is, of course, use his legs and his physical abilities, his tangibles and intangibles to just absolutely burn man coverage. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. I would love it. Giving Aaron Rodgers as many weapons as possible. Yes, there is some downsides to doing this. The only downside, really, is that you'd have to give up decent draft capital, but this Steelers team is in a very good spot right now. Despite what everyone's saying, they're in a fine spot, right? And yes, like I mentioned just then, they've lost some games that they should have won. They're still number one in their division. Obviously, the Bengals are behind them. The Ravens, who play tonight, going to be interesting to see. Obviously, as Steelers fans, we're going to keep an eye on that. And every other team in the division is going to keep an eye out on the Ravens and what Lamar Jackson truly looks like. But the Steelers have command of this. If they can go ahead and take care of business against the Colts, which is much easier said than done as the Colts stand at 7-1, it's going to be very interesting. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. A couple other things here before we wrap up. We have some new comments from a lot of different people here. You see here, I'm a firm believer in the defense has to stop us. We can't stop ourselves. They've got to line up. They don't know our routes. They don't know our plays. We just got to execute them better. And obviously here he's talking about how important it is for the Steelers' offense and how good they've been. The offense hasn't really been a problem. Aaron Rodgers has looked fantastic. The defense for the Steelers, despite being the highest paid defense in the NFL now, even more highly paid, even though the Patriots retain most of the salary in the Kyle Duggar trade. It is going to be crucial that they continue to play well. And you add another weapon to this offense, it's scary, even though it is still a Mike Tomlin offense. And Terrell Austin recently came out and said that the Steelers will determine just how much Kyle Duggar can play this week as he gets closer to game time, but they're working to get him up to speed as quickly as possible. So getting him available for the Colts game is going to be crucial. Every game at this point matters so much, right? And you obviously are out Deshaun Elliott. I do not want to see Clark play a snap for the Steelers on Sunday. Put Kyle Duggar out there. Yes, he's been benched a few times with the Steelers, but go ahead. Make the move. And of course, Mike Tomlin is a defensive coach after all, so it'll be interesting to see that. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. And of course, Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson recently kind of spoke out, and I covered that as well in previous videos, basically saying they're ready to go, hopefully hoping for a breakout year for Roman Wilson. Hasn't really happened. And for Calvin Austin, he's just trying to continue to do his job as a WR2. We'll see if that changes. You guys are absolute piece of the support. See you guys later.